is going to be another great interview on innovation and why most organizations struggle with innovation.
Dustin, good to be with you again.
Yes, and my first question is regarding the pace of change, and can you talk a little bit about what changes are taking place, or why is change pushing the need for innovation?
Yes. Innovation is becoming more and more of a strategic imperative for many companies. And they struggle with innovation because their traditional structures are not designed for innovation. Example, in the media industry, Napster came along. Napster was a new business model that became possible because we now live in a hyper-connected world thanks to the internet and of networks. The traditional media organizations really mishandled what could have been a great opportunity for them by putting Napster out of business. That was their response. And while they were successful with that, they couldn't kill digital downloading. And so today, a computer company, Apple, is one of the largest names in music. And the traditional industry winded up, inadvertently ceding a lot of its business to this new player. We're going to see this increasingly. Let's take, for example, the field of financial services. You now have blockchain technology coming about. And what blockchain technology is, it's a distributed users within the financial service industry are forming their own networks that are calling into question the traditional ways that we have brokered the transfer of dollars, between buyers and sellers. And so the financial services industry is going to need to come to terms with these very new and different business models. I think as we look down the road, we can probably see that this will impact the healthcare industry. And then as the whole Internet of Things becomes more and more of an everyday phenomenon, there's another example of a network structure. Just the other day, there was a report that some of the automotive companies, and I believe Google is in this space as well, are designing technologies so that it's going to become difficult for cars to crash, because the cars are all going to be talking to each other through the technology of the Internet of Things. And there is going to be a form of self-organization, literally, among the machines. So this is an entirely different context for business. And traditional organizations struggle because, since they're hierarchically designed, they're not properly aligned to deal with this increasingly networked world in which we live.
So can you talk more about why organizations haven't come to terms with this?
Yep. The thing they struggle with, and the reason traditional companies have so much difficulty with innovation, is there are two key ingredients that are the prerequisite for innovation. And if you look at some of what I call the vanguard companies, these are companies that are designed as peer-to-peer networks rather than top-down hierarchies. So, examples would be, for example, Google, Valve, the online game company. Zappos is in that space. To some extent, Amazon, certainly Apple. These are places that are known for innovation. And when you go inside their organizations, what you begin to see is that there tends to be a free flow of information and a free flow of ideas. If anybody saw the movie The Internship, that was actually filmed, a lot of it on Google's campus. And you could see that is a very different workspace from the typical office. Because Google is designed as a network. It's designed so that people don't work in cubes in offices, but more in open spaces, and they work in teams, and they're sitting together. And all of that is to facilitate the free flow of ideas and the free flow of information. Using Google as an example again, they have their famous 20% time. Why does that exist? Well, Google puts that in place so that, if you will, people can disobey the supervisors. because in their normal 80% work, they're told not to work on something. In their 20% time, if they think it's a good idea, they're free to work on it in that space. And the founders of Google have set up the company like that because they don't want to stop the free flow of ideas. In hierarchies, because every supervisor has the ability to kill ideas, and that's why hierarchies are so dangerous. You don't have the free flow of ideas. The other thing in hierarchies is they have this phenomenon known as the need to know. Well, in a network environment, the basic assumption is everyone has a need to know as much as possible. So the free flow of ideas and the free flow of information are the ingredients that lead to the serendipity that is often the soil in which innovation happens. Because remember, innovation is creating something that doesn't exist. Because hierarchies inhibit the flow of information and they inhibit the flow of ideas, they are killing the two ingredients that fuel serendipity, that make innovation possible. That's why they struggle. They're not designed to be innovative.
And is there any success stories or any examples you could provide of how this is done effectively?
Oh, I think Google and Apple are probably the biggest examples. I mean, if you just look at the way that they operate, when you go into their office places, you're going to see a real emphasis on the team. You're going to see this free flow of information and ideas, and I think the things they produce, are the examples. And so, the iPhone, the iPad, Google Maps, Google working on the driverless car. I mean, we're all beginning to come to terms with the fact that we're going to live in a world where in a decade or two, there are going to be driverless cars on the road. You'd have Amazon looking at drone technology for delivering packages. So I think the proof of the pudding, if you will, is in the products that these companies are producing.
And what are your recommendations for organizations that want to innovate?
Well, the key recommendation is to transform their organizations into some form of a peer-to-peer network, and that's harder. It's easier said rather than done, because it's a complete set shift in how to lead organizations. In our firm, I work for the firm Optimity Advisors. We have developed a service we call Collective Intelligence Dynamics. And the purpose of it is to provide simulators to organization. And these simulators are applied to both so that we can bring the network effect to both of those systems, to aggregate the collective intelligence contained both within the data systems and in the human systems, to do those in discrete ways so that companies have an experience of how the network effect works. So through these demonstrations, it helps business leaders get familiarity with different structures work. But that's, if you will, it would be a form of a dual operating system. That is a recommendation that John Kotter has come up with. He's come up with the idea that he recognizes it's hard for people, especially with long histories of hierarchy, to change overnight. And so he recommends that a second side-by-side system be set up that operates according to network principles, but is populated by the same people. Our service of Collective Intelligence Dynamics is a structured way in which to do that in a facilitated fashion. So, but some form of a dual operating system is probably the things that companies could do now. But I think that these dual operating systems are, if you will, transition steps. 20 years from now, I think, at the outset, or certainly at the latest, is probably a better way to say it, I think the vast majority of business organizations will be some form of a peer-to-peer collaborative network, for the simple reason that the world at large is structured as a network, and networks are smarter and faster than hierarchies. And if the companies don't transform, it's just a matter of time before somebody enters the market with a network structure and then just essentially takes over their business. And if you want examples, I mean, look at what happened to both, to Kodak and Blockbuster, who got left behind because they could not adjust to the networked environment of digital transformations.
Thanks again for sharing, Rod, and this is an exciting topic, and it's looking forward to a great future, an innovative future for businesses.
Dustin, it's always a pleasure to visit with you.
Thank you.